Hey everybody, this is Amber from the Modern Lady's Guide to Armed Self-Defense, and I just wanted to do a quick video about gun control and some of my thoughts on the issue. This is obviously a very big topic today, especially with a lot of mass shootings going on. And so I wanted to kind of put my political opinion about that out there and address it and kind of make a comparison about something that I think actually makes sense, okay? So I'll get to that here in a minute. But first of all, I just want to start out by saying that, of course, everybody is really concerned about the issue of mass shootings. It seems to be happening more frequently, and obviously nobody wants that to happen. At least nobody who's sane wants to have these mass shootings happening. And so everybody's trying to come up with new solutions and new ideas of how we can solve this problem and how we can keep people safer. And so, of course, what's going to happen because of this is that a lot of people are going to start calling for more gun control laws here in the United States. And they will point to, and it's not because most of these people are just average citizens like you and I, and they really legitimately just feel like this is the best way to solve the problem. They look at countries in Europe and in Australia, and they feel like, that restricting guns more tightly and even an all-out firearm ban would actually help to prevent more mass shootings. And at looking at these other countries, they feel like that's a legitimate argument. And here's kind of where I would disagree with that. I'd like to compare compare gun laws to compare guns to alcohol here. There's a lot of comparisons that are made when it comes to gun laws. People will say, well, if you ban guns, then you should ban cars. I don't think that's a very good comparison because cars are, it's something that is very, very useful for everybody. Transportation is involved, but also transporting goods, and it isn't quite the same thing. Cars are really used, almost a necessity in our society today. Whereas you could technically argue that guns aren't in and of themselves a necessity that are used every single day. So I don't feel like that's a very fair comparison. Some might say, I've heard the one that's you should ban spoons to fight obesity. Again, that's not a very fair comparison because you need spoons to eat. Eating is necessary to keep people alive. You don't necessarily need a gun to stay alive, although it is a good tool to help you to fight if your life is ever threatened. But that's a rare occasion. So those aren't very good comparisons. However, I feel like the gun to alcohol comparison is a really good thing to look at. So for those of you who feel like you want a way to defend, preventing gun control, or at least thinking twice about it, here's why I would put that argument out there. Because the first thing I want to say is that approximately 100,000 people die per year in alcohol-related deaths in the United States. And that's a really significant number because if you compare it to guns, 34,000 people die from firearm-related deaths. So that's 100,000 from alcohol compared to 34,000 from firearm-related deaths. So that's really important to look at. If you really are concerned with saving lives, then we really need to look at the alcohol problem because more lives are taken through that, whether directly or indirectly, than they are from guns. Now, this isn't a perfect comparison, of course, because alcohol and firearms do have different purposes. But I feel like pretty much all the arguments against banning alcohol sound really similar to the arguments against banning guns. So here's what you would say. If you were to tell somebody this and say, okay, we should ban alcohol in order to save more lives, here's what some of the responses would be. So one would be that the fact that people die from alcohol, it's not because alcohol is dangerous by itself, it's those that use it just need to drink more responsibly, right? Okay. Here's another one. Drinking is a way to relax and to have a good time. It is a way to take the edge off of a long day and enjoy the company of others. People often enjoy a drink with those that they love, and some will even get a confidence boost after drinking. And as long as you're safe and responsible, drinking is an enjoyable activity. Alcohol also has cultural value. Many people in the United States drink alcoholic beverages because it's part of their personal culture. Several countries are even famous for their alcoholic drinks. I mean, I'm sure you can immediately identify the origins of tequila, Guinness, champagne, sake, and rum, right? It is also dangerous for kids to get a hold of alcohol, but you need to be a responsible parent to make sure that the kid understands that adult beverages are for adults only, and you need to keep those drinks inaccessible to children. Now, there are some parents who might allow their kid a sip or two, but it's of course going to be under the close supervision of an adult. Some drinks are more potent than others, but most people use them responsibly and in small quantities. And on top of all of that, there are laws in place to prevent irresponsible drinking. It is illegal to drive drunk. You cannot purchase alcohol if you are under 21, and the rules to sell alcohol are complex and vary from state to state. It is illegal to drink at all in some locations. So these laws are intended to make us safer, but they still allow us the freedom to enjoy alcoholic drinks. And while alcohol can still cause some problems because of the irresponsible, we already know that an outright ban wouldn't work because we look at prohibition in the 1920s and 30s, and it was pretty ineffective. And so it was too difficult to regulate the creation and the sale of alcohol. People will make their own, they'll buy it illegally regardless of what law is in place. It's too embedded in our culture and our daily lives to remove it completely. Now, if you look at all those arguments against banning alcohol, you probably noticed how very, very similar they are to banning guns or to restricting guns. But if you didn't see, the comparison there, let me show you kind of put all of those arguments into perspective. And I really did try to come up with every possible reason why banning alcohol would be a bad idea. And so now we just take that and remove the word alcohol, put in guns, and here's what you're going to see in its place. So we should ban guns. Well, here's the reason why you shouldn't. 1, the fact that people die from guns isn't because guns are dangerous by themselves. Those who use them just need to shoot and to carry responsibly. Shooting is a way to relax and to have a good time. It is a way to take the edge off of a long day and to enjoy the company of others. People also enjoy shooting with those that they love, and some even get a bit of confidence boost after a day at the range. As long as you are safe and responsible, shooting is an enjoyable activity. Guns have cultural value. Many people in the United States own guns because it is part of their personal culture. Many guns are antiques that have been passed on through generations, and each of those guns tell a story of an important moment in history to that family. It could be a rifle that an ancestor used in the Civil War or a German pistol taken from a battle during World War II. It is dangerous for kids to get a hold of guns, which is why responsible parents make sure that their kids understand that guns are for adults only and keep the guns inaccessible to children. Some parents may allow their child to shoot or to hunt, but always under close supervision. There are certainly some guns that are more powerful than others, but most people use them responsibly and legally on gun ranges. You can also get higher capacities, but again, getting higher capacity, more rounds in your gun is for the sake of just more protection. Usually it's very, very difficult to hit a target with only 6 rounds that you would have in a revolver, right? So having more rounds is really just a way to be even more effective in a gunfight. And it also allows for you to have more fun on the range or to be more effective if you're hunting. There are laws in place to prevent gun violence already. It's illegal to modify a weapon to make it fully automatic. You cannot sell a gun to someone who has a criminal record, and you cannot buy a gun from a licensed dealer without a background check. The rules to obtain concealed carry licenses are complex, and they vary from state to state. There are many places where it is illegal to have a weapon at all. These laws are intended to make us safer while still allowing us the freedom to enjoy gun ownership. And the last point that I made about alcohol, and that has to do with prohibition, is the only one that doesn't directly apply to guns, because we've never had a time in U.S. history where guns were completely outlawed. But like it or not, guns are everywhere in the United States, and that's one of the big differences between us and any of the other countries that you're going to look at. It's really a big part of our culture, and there are a lot of guns in the United States. It would be impossible to remove them all. And if it were tried, it would not be difficult to find one illegally. 3D printers are on the rise, and I am sure we are going to be seeing the manufacture of cheap handguns from home. coming. People have already started manufacturing gun parts using 3D printers. It's not going to be long before we get entire guns made that way. And so I've never had a drink in my life. And alcohol is, if you just look at the numbers, it is more deadly and more dangerous than guns are. And so, but at the same time, even though I've never had a drink in my life, I would not be in favor of banning alcohol. And I think we as Americans are overall responsible people. I really do. It is a tragedy, absolutely, when someone dies from alcohol or weapons. But we can educate ourselves and we can be more responsible and prevent more senseless deaths in the future. And that's just the thing. If we're educated and we learn more about alcohol, guns, or anything that poses some sort of a safety threat, I think that we can be responsible and that we can do that. And to me, that's common sense.